just takes one time and 5 seconds for the brain to be traumatized. It connects with the body, takes a screenshot or a snapshot of it, puts it all the way in the back of your brain and hides it from you so you don't even know what's happening. And then you're wondering why, I can't get into a relationship because my body told me when I was 6 I wasn't lovable or something else. It's amazing how this thing is so designed. And we're not taught about trauma release. We're just taught to push stuff down instead of get it out of our system. I'm training people to understand how their brains and their body really works based on the information that I've learned. I'm hoping that people understand that when the voice in their head says something, it's not their conscious, it's not their truth, it's just a voice in your head. Like, for example, how many of you as directors or teachers have ever tried to have a conversation with a child, then you look at them and you say, look at me when I'm talking to you, and they start this.
Erica Scosio here with the Child Care Directors Chair podcast. I'm so excited you are here today. I have to tell you, we talk about so many things on this show. Usually we're talking to the child care owners. Today we're going to talk to the teachers and those that are working with our students. I have an amazing guest with us today, Ron. I'm going to say it wrong. Shuail.
Okay, well, you said you're going to say it wrong, and then you said it wrong. So you believed what?
I
so
believed
that's perfect.
I believe it.
Your brain said words to you, and then you bought into it, even though 15 seconds ago you pronounced it perfectly. But that's so beautiful because that's one of the things that I like to talk about, how the brain just gets in our way.
Yes, brain gets in the way. So can you pronounce it correctly for me?
I'll try.
Okay.
Shuail. There you go.
I'm so used to butchering names, including my own. Many times people never get mine right. It's a lot of vowels. It's whatever.
Names are made up anyway.
I'm distracted by the awesome donuts that are sitting on your shirt right now. So we're gonna have some fun today. I know that all of you are so sick of boring PD. We all go to the boring PDs, and we have been to so many things that just don't work. So so today we're going to talk about some things that work, especially when we're working with children who maybe aren't doing what we need them to do. So maybe we kind of talk about why and what we can do to help reach those children. So welcome to the show, Ron, the expert in that area. You're welcome. So tell folks who have never met you before, haven't seen you anywhere before, a little bit about yourself. I know there's probably only a few. But if you're on the East Coast, you know this guy already. But
there's a lot of people that don't know me. And by the way, too, is the things that we're going to talk about, especially when it comes to behavior. This is great for the directors as well because you're the ones that get to model it, especially for the teachers that aren't on board. If you have those old school teachers that are just like, kids are never going to change, stuck in their ways, or if you have those new teachers that have no idea what they're doing, even though they think that they do. So this is all. This is all for everybody, all the human beings.
All the humans.
A little bit about myself. So I love joy. I love happiness. I, according to my mom, is the most oppositional human being ever created. My world wasn't even having anything to do with early childhood until I was 25, where I was a finance major. And I did this amazing seminar called the Landmark Forum that they have all over the world, and you can still do it online now. And it has you really understand a lot of the stuck programs and patterns that get in your way that exists in your subconscious. So once I started looking at my blind spots and realizing my path for money was because of one sentence that I said that I was 12, I kind of broke that apart. And I remember teaching my cousin in Israel for the first time martial arts, the first time I met him, and then for a whole entire week we just trained and had fun, and I just remember one of the most happiness in my life is teaching martial arts. So I went to my karate instructor that I was actually training how to be a better fighter. I was a pro wrestler at the time. I wanted to go wrestle in Japan, which they kind of beat up the newbies that don't look like them to see how tough they were. So this was my martial art instructor I was training with, and I told him, I had an epiphany. My life is complete. Would you be open to teaching me how to teach kids karate? And it was incredible because he talked to his wife, And I learned more about him. He was an elementary school teacher. The wife was a preschool teacher. And I didn't realize that they had such knowledge and master's degrees and all this, but they would implement it in a karate school fashion. So for the first, 2 years, I was learning how to teach my own classes while I was running an at-home personal training business where I would go to people's houses. And instead of boring weights, we would do twister. We would play tag. We would run around their whole entire houses. Everything with me is about having fun, because I'm one of the few people that was lucky enough never to believe anyone when they said grow up, or when they said, if you can't make money doing this, don't do it. I didn't listen, Captain Oppositional, and this is also what I do when it comes to working with teachers and staff, is just teaching them how to have more joy.
Well, I think right now we all definitely could use more joy, and I think that the challenges in the last 5 or 6 years have really doubled, right?
Absolutely.
So I want one and two things. I want my kids to have fun and learn, and I want my teachers to enjoy coming to work. So let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about that. So, share a little bit about how what you're doing and what you're training people to do help accomplish those goals.
Well, I'm training people to understand how their brains and their body really works based on the information that I've learned. I'm hoping that people understand that when the voice in their head says something, it's not their conscious, it's not their truth, it's just a voice in your head. Like, for example, how many of you as directors or teachers have ever tried to have a conversation with a child, then you look at them and you say, look at me when I'm talking to you, and they start this. Excuse me. So when that child isn't looking at you, what does your brain, for yourself and also for everybody watching, what does your brain automatically tell you? That child isn't looking at me. That child is being what? Give me some. What is your child? What is your?
I would say disrespectful, not listening, ignoring. Yeah.
Great. Look at that. So that's three words right there that took you half a second.
Mm-hmm.
So just consider that those 3 words that came from your brain, it just came from your brain. It didn't come from your heart. It didn't come from your spirit. So those words that your brain says, the reason why your brain says that is because the brain loves to be right. Loves to be right. There are people that will spend more time in their life being right than being open to love. So when their brain says, that child's being rude, you're right, you make the child wrong. Your brain sends a message to the body to release dopamine, endorphins, all these feel-good chemicals. So every time you look at that child, then when you say, look at me when I'm talking to you, and the child does this thing, and you say, the child's being rude, you're making the child wrong, you're being right. That child is being defiant, you're making the child wrong, you're being right. You're getting 4 hits of dopamine. That's called living a win-lose life and having win-lose communication, and we don't even realize we're doing it because we're not taught this. So if you choose win-win, instead of just being right about the child, you would then consider taking a breath and asking the child, what does your mom and dad tell you about eye contact or looking at an adult? And that child might say, well, my mommy and daddy say whenever you look at an adult in their eyes, then that's being rude and that's being disrespectful. And now it clicks because you're win-win. The whole entire time, this kid is trying to be rude, as respectful as possible, and you're playing the look at me when I'm talking to you game, trying to have them do what's against them. So a lot of times is that even if your brain says something to you, what I teach people is if you want to react to it immediately, it's fine, but it usually doesn't create win-win and it doesn't create beautiful connection. If you choose win-win, you transfer the call to your heart. What do I mean by that? Like we sometimes interact fight, flight, freeze, or fawn type thing, and then we don't know that we can actually make decisions with our heart. The heart has its own intelligence system. It sends more messages to the brain than the brain does to the heart. Have you ever made decisions with your heart?
Every day.
Every day. Have you made decisions with your gut?
Every day.
Every day. So we have different decision makers in our body, but we're not taught that. So if I can have teachers open up their hearts more, I do unprofessional development. It's the opposite of boring PD, and I don't do PowerPoints because those put people to sleep. I show TMVs. I do teachable moment videos where we're doing videos and we're watching kind of like if you ever see those America's Funniest Home Videos or the Tosh Point oh type thing, but the videos have something to do with what we're doing, and then we take an adventure into understanding how to create a win-win world. Because when I was in preschool setting up my programs, I would hear all this stuff that after the teacher would say it, I'm like, you don't even realize that you're not even trying to communicate with the child. You're just being right. Like, perfect example. Finish this sentence. Ready? You get what you get.
And you don't get upset.
There you go. And other people that are watching probably said, you don't get upset, you don't throw a fit, whatever it is. And notice, again, it wasn't like, let me think about that response. It's an immediate response. So again, it's not your heart that comes into work every day and takes care of other people's kids and comes back every day after that. That's your brain being automatic. So when you say to a child, you get what you get and you don't get upset, there's no benefit to the kid. The kid, I just want 5 more minutes on the computer. You get what you get and you don't get upset. And by the way, when you say that to a child, all of you that have done this and heard this, how do you say it? Do you say it to a child? Imagine the kid you're looking at. Do you look at this and go, my dear, my precious soul, you get what you get and you don't get upset. Namaste. Do you say it like that? Or are you towering over the person like, you get what you get and you don't get upset? You know, it's just, that's the reactionary way that we are. Like, there's so many things. So it's like, have you ever heard a teacher or director say, are you making good choices today? Are we making good choices today? And the kid looks at you like, can you be a little more specific? I've made 27 choices in the last half hour. Can you narrow it down? It's like we say these things that don't, this is one of my favorite ones. No, thank you. No, see, you immediately laugh because you hear that. No, thank you. No, thank you. The kid's looking at you like, no, you're welcome. Like, I don't really understand what's happening. Like, what does that do? It doesn't teach the child what they did. Like, imagine if you're driving and a cop pulls you over and they knock on your window and they go, license and registration. No, thank you. And then they go to the car. Did you learn anything? And no, they come back. Here's 3 tickets. No, thank you. And then they're gone. So it's understanding that, and it's all a choice. If you want to choose win-lose, keep saying, no, thank you. What did I tell you? What did we just talk about? Are you making good choices? Do you have your listening ears on? Do you have your listening ears on? And the kids look at you confused, like, do I have to get my hearing checked? Like, why do you ask me if I have my listening ears on? Like, I hear you on the other side of the room where the camera can't see you, where you're voice texting your friends when you're supposed to be watching me. Blah, blah, you know. But it's so crazy. Like, these kids, like when did we ever confuse listening and following directions? Like, do you have anybody at home that doesn't listen to you? You do? Okay, so think about that one person that doesn't listen to you. Is it really that they don't listen to you? Or they listen to you all the time because you follow them from room to room to room, saying the same thing over and over? Is it that they're not listening to you, or they're always listening? They're just choosing not to follow your directions because you haven't figured out a way how to make it win-win. And they're getting more attention pushing your buttons. Like, how many times do you have a teenager in life where the only time mom ever goes into the room is to let them know that their room is dirty, but any other time they don't give them attention? So the child needs to figure out a way, because a teenager doesn't want to ask for attention because it's kind of childish, even though that's what I teach in my classes. I stop every half hour or the hour whenever there's one of the neurodivergent exceptional queens or kings wants attention. I stop the class, I show these in my workshops, and I go, who wants attention? And you'll have 20 kids, but only 3 want attention. So they dance, they do this, they do that. I did it one time. There was a kid started telling me jokes. And he started telling me knock-knock jokes, which is awesome, because I answered all the knock-knock jokes, and I gave him a couple extra ones because I don't know that kid's not going to be on all these different radio shows and comedy shows on America's Got Talent doing comedy because I reinforced a knock-knock joke. I gave him a great one. Ready? Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Hatch.
Hatchu.
Bless you.
Yeah, cute. You know what's funny too is, we'll say things as adults that we don't also follow. Because go to a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant and let somebody get your order wrong, and the waiter doesn't say, well, you get what you get, and get upset. You're writing a bad review. So we should also walk the walk and tell kids things that are realistic, because they then come, they go out to dinner with their parents and they're flipping a lid because they brought them the wrong thing at the table. Right.
Well, that's a whole nother thing about one other thing that the brain does, which is creating expectations. And that's another thing that I go over because, like, for example, have you ever created an expectation for another human, never shared the expectation with them, and when they don't fulfill the expectation that they know nothing about, who does our brain immediately get mad at?
In most cases, I would say probably the other person. Right. I'm very self-aware. But you're right. Yeah. No, you're right.
That's it. So I mean, it's like how many people here create expectations for the parents of their kids? Yeah. Like expectations like they'll pick their kids up on time. Crazy expectations. Yeah. Directors, how many of you have expectations that the parents will pay on time? You don't have to chase them around, blah, blah, this. But that's the difference is that we create these expectations in our brain. Mm-hmm. And then because they're not fulfilled by the person that doesn't know, we now treat them differently. Like if we have an expectation that they're going to pick their kids up at 6 and a parent walks in at 6:10, our brain doesn't tell us, make sure they're okay. Ask them how their day was. Was there traffic? What's going on that you were late? Blah, blah, blah. Our brains a program to go look at them and then look at that hot cup of coffee and did you have to sit in a drive-through to get that? You could have been here on time. But that's the brain making up stuff about the parent. And my brain goes, well, maybe they needed that cup of coffee because who knows what kind of day they had. And now they, as an untrained adult, are going home with their preschooler who has all this built up energy. I'd rather them be 10 minutes late and calmer and happier than, reacting a different way. But my world is about win-win and love, because there was, before I did that seminar, it wasn't win-win. It was about myself. It was about money. And it was about, running the programs that I had in my head until I realized that a lot of stuff that's in my head is just, it's not there to benefit me. And my heart is what I listen to most.
Ron, so I'd like to throw something in there because I love what you just said. It's very profound, actually. So I am a childcare owner and I have directors under me. And sometimes that win-win also can relate to the adults in the room. Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
And so sometimes, because I'm very heart-centered, I may look at something exactly like what you just said. I may look at something in a whole different way than a director does. And they're like, well, you don't have my back. And they get away with stuff. And I'm like, because I look at them as the human being that they are. Yeah. And it's not like, yeah, of course they got to follow policies and things like that. I'm not saying that, but I think I check in on them first. Like, are you okay? Are you late because something happened? Or you're late because you just didn't care to be on time? Like, those are two different things, and I think it's important to be aware of that. Not only because it's important, because as we set the environment up for our school, it's not just the teacher and child relationship, but it's also the adult relationships in the room. And when you walk in a room, you already know what the culture is of that program without a person saying a word. You can see it in the body language and people.
You feel it. You feel the energy, heart coherence, and the electromagnetic field that the heart sends out is very real, and you feel it when you walk into a room. That's why I try to get, if you're about to go into the school and you have a negative way of being that you realize, I try to get people to go onto YouTube and type in Chewbacca lady, or type in some silly big dogs and babies, and just watch for 1 minute one of those videos. Like my go-to videos are the Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley Chippendale scene from Saturday Night Live. Yeah. So you see how you right now had a state change. So what that is, it's a pattern interrupt. So what I do is I need to pattern interrupt my brain when it's going down that negative, what have you, so that I get myself out of that situation. Because who knows what happened 10 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago. But if you're going to walk into a school and you have a negative way of being, if you don't realize you're about to bring down the school, bring down the classroom, then maybe that could be the goal. We all know people that love to get themselves in a victim mentality and then invite other people to their pity party, and they don't realize, the consequence or the ramifications of it, or that's all they got, because there's people that have shut off their hearts a long time ago. Like, I do a lot of coaching with teachers that it used to be, I can't wait to see my kids, and now it's, I can't wait till it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just one thing. A lot of times it's the parent that ran up to the teacher and asked a question that they know the teacher doesn't have the answer to because it's 6 o'clock and it's dismissal time and blah, 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 blah. And then the parent just wants to run over to the director and tattle, just like the kids tattle, the directors tattle, the parents tattle too. And then the director, if the director said anything other than, thank you for the information, I'll look into it, instead of sometimes, oh, I'll make sure that they immediately just believe the parent. And my question is, why? But, why would you believe anything a parent says? Unless it's on video, like, I don't believe anything they say. That's just me. So then the parent then tries to tattle, and then the director goes up to the teacher and goes, did you do? And all the teacher has to do, the brain goes, wow, they didn't believe me. They didn't trust me. And all of a sudden, that trust and that love, the brain shuts it off for the director. But the problem is the brain doesn't know to shut it off for the director. So the brain shuts it off for everything. I mean, I've done coaching for teachers that they were joyous and loving and happening, and all of a sudden it was just upset and sad, until I have a conversation with the teacher, and then I find out, 6 months ago, mom died, and she has a 12-year young sister, and now she's the adult, so she made a decision. I have to be serious. And she didn't realize when we program ourselves, especially in a heightened state and when there's trauma, the serious is 100%. So she was serious at home where she wanted to be. But then she was serious with her own kids. And then she was serious with the kids in her classroom. And all the happiness and all the love and all the joy disappeared. And until she realized that, she started crying, because that's how you release trauma. Energy and motion. Emotions are energy and motion. She cried. She let it out of her system. She realized what she did. The next day, she came back as the beautiful human being. And it's awesome. But unfortunately, that's how the brain works. It just takes one time and 5 seconds for the brain to be traumatized. It connects with the body, takes a screenshot or a snapshot of it, puts it all the way in the back of your brain, and hides it from you, so you don't even know what's happening. And then you're wondering why, I can't get into a relationship because my body told me when I was 6 I wasn't lovable, or something else. It's amazing how this thing is so designed. And we're not taught about trauma release. We're just taught to push stuff down instead of get it out of our system.
So at our school, we have a good amount of students that have come through our doors that are foster children or adopted children. So talk a little bit more about how teachers can help children who have faced trauma.
First of all, any conversation you have with them, have it be eye level or you're below them. Any conversation right off the bat that you're towering or you're over somebody is just a disempowering conversation. Their body is in full alert. They could be your fight or flight depending on what their backgrounds are. So first thing I would do is make them comfortable and show them love and talk to them and listen to them and find out things about them and just let them express themselves. And just slowly start understanding that, every child is their own individual thing, and things happened in life, and you can open up your heart and make it a possibility for you to connect with that child. And emotions are good too. We've been taught to kind of push emotions out, but I don't know. I mean, I cry with my kids. I laugh with my kids. I fart with my kids. when I'm working with my students, it's all about human interaction. And I don't for a second allow any of the quote unquote BS that's kind of snuck in about, well, you can't really, you can't do this. You can't hug your kids. You gotta do that. No, I'm all about love. But then again, I'm not a preschool teacher. When I used to work in preschools in New Jersey, and we still do at this one school down here in Fort Lauderdale, we go in as an enrichment program. So, it's I have more leeway since I'm my own boss.
And I didn't even realize you were from Florida. So with that being said, this is going to be way off topic, but what can we do as a community to help the folks down in Florida? like our ECE community? Do you know what we can do?
Money.
Is there? Okay, so
I mean that's
okay.
I mean that's the thing that I've heard.
Sure.
You know, people do drives and people do this and people do that, all these different
Sure.
things, and they spend a lot of time doing that. But in reality, people need money to fix things, and they also need resources. I have a really good friend of mine that his sole company is going out and working with people that have had problems with hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff all around New Orleans and Florida. And his specialty is going after the insurance companies that don't want to pay a penny but will take all your money. And he gets them, like, I mean, his statistics, like he'll get like 7 times the amount of it back. So I mean, you know, if people have any problems, always reach out, call, make a phone call, reach out for help, ask them if there's anything you could do. You know, sometimes even just a conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not. It's very interesting because we're in Fort Lauderdale, and it seems like all these hurricanes are kind of going around the West Coast. So we've been lucky for a while.
I'll reach out to Wendy over at Flacy and see.
Yeah.
I know they were doing some type of match thing at the conference.
Yeah, they're doing something up to like $5,000 they were matching. So yeah, go on Flacy's website.
Flacy, that's a great place to go. So those of you who are listening, if you feel, because we're talking about love here, talking about love, talking about community, maybe connect with Flacy and see what we can do as a community to help support those that are affected from the hurricane, for sure.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
No. So, all right. So before we wrap up, what, if there's anything you haven't shared that you really feel like childcare owners should know, what would it be?
Every person that works with you is a human being. Anytime that your brain creates an expectation that anybody other than you is going to be as committed to your school as you, your brain's lying to you. So please don't create that expectation that the people that work for you are as committed. Don't create the expectation they're not going to call out via text. Just figure out ways how to have people be more engaged. And I have a lot of information. I have a workshop online called Captain of the Ship that I can give you. If you give me like a code or something or make something up, I'll send it to you so everybody on here can do the whole online course library for 3 months. And it's really, really good at having you understand how to communicate with people to create win-win. Like just really quick, for example, like if a parent or a teacher comes up to you and they go, well, I want, this, or I'm looking for that. And if you say to them, I understand what you're saying, but, or I definitely get where you're coming from, however, like those 2 words right there, already right off the bat, the wall is up. Like I'm not listening. So I teach people how to use win-win words too. Like instead of saying, I know what you're saying, but I know what you're saying, and oh, I understand where you're coming from, and then I also like to use as soon as, because sometimes there's parents that think that the director or the owner has the absolute end all be all, and they don't understand development appropriate practice. They don't understand this, so they'll come up to a director or an owner with a request that is not possible. So just using the words as soon as, like I was doing a conference at a director's training in Texas after a keynote, and they said to me, what do I do if a parent comes up to us and says, well, I want you to go into the bathroom and you can give my kid a whooping if they're not following directions. Yeah, Texas, okay?
No.
So the parents, the director's like, well, we can't do that. And the parent's like, no, it's okay, I'll sign a form. Like the parent just, like they don't understand. Their brain is being right. They don't have any understanding of reality or whatever. So the director asked me, what would you say? And I would say as well, as soon as the state of Texas changes its laws on corporal punishment, we can revisit this conversation. And for now, we have to stick to the rules. And the parent's like, the parent would be like, okay, because that as soon as takes the perceived, not that you're responsible, but takes the perceived responsibility off of you and puts it onto, the actual thing that's responsible, like the law or whatever it is. So just looking for win-win ways to do that is just a wonderful way to just start noticing. And just be present. When are you making people wrong? What did I tell you? What do we talk about? Just, a basic level human being is a human that loves to be right, loves to make others wrong, and doesn't have a relationship that's good with anybody. A level 2 human being would be somebody that instead of saying, they catch themselves and they go, if I say this, this relationship is ruined, at least for the next 10 minutes, there's no love. And then you choose to say something else or you don't say it at all. And then the human being in front of you is reconnected or still connected to you, as opposed to just saying something to be right for 2 seconds. You get a rush and that person's out of your life. Yeah. Just as easy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know if you read John Maxwell or not, but
I don't read. I wait for the movie.
Gotcha. Okay. So John Maxwell talks about that in his 5 levels of leadership. And number 1 is literally that is ruling by policies, procedures, and things like that. Yeah, right. Not the person, not caring about the relationship. So, all right. So, while we're on, I'm going to give you a code. Here's the code. It's going to be podcast 1, all capital letters. Does that work for you, Ron?
Sure. Podcast 1.
That's the code. So we're going to drop the info in the link below if you want to check out the, what'd you say, captain of the ship? Steering the ship?
Captain of the ship is the director's training.
Okay.
Behavior mastery's on there. There's also a really nice one that I call strength ching, which is stretching and strengthening. It's how to get rid of sciatic pain, lower back pain, carpal tunnel pain, all these things that as directors and owners, you're sitting in the chair. I know you're getting up to cover ratio or to do mac and cheese or to nebulize or the bus or whatever. But, if you're sitting for more than an hour a day, your hamstrings are contracting. Your lower back and your sciatic muscles are contracting. These are not things that are supposed to be happening, and this is where the pain starts from. So you can get rid of sciatica, carpal tunnel pain, neck pain, all this stuff just by doing 35, 40 seconds of stretching per thing a day. Only if you want pain relief. I mean, there's people that, something hurts them and now they can get attention for it and they don't want that pain to go away. So.
Thank you so much, Ron.
My pleasure.
Thank you for everybody who tuned in today. Again, remember, it's the small details that make a big impact on the success of your childcare business. That's it. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.